Welcome to the Church in the Wild podcast. You'll be hearing the words from worship from Sunday, August 17th, 2025. This is the third week of our series on trees, where we talk about trees' connected wisdom. If you want to find out more about Church in the Wild and all of our upcoming events and programs, just go to churchinthewild.org. Thanks for listening.
Okay, excuse me, I'm Barb, and in keeping with our tree theme, and just so beautiful looking out at all that, I did a little research on the relationship between oak trees and squirrels. And at first that was kind of, to me, I was like, well, that's pretty boring, because oak trees and squirrels are everywhere in this area, and I kind of take them for granted. But when I thought about animals that have a close relationship with trees, a specific tree, the squirrel and the oak tree jumped to mind as always seeming to go hand in hand. You always see little squirrels with little acorns, and it's just kind of, they're a couple. So squirrels are omnivores. They don't just eat acorns, they eat whatever is available. And there's a lot more available in the spring and the summer for them. But one of their favorite and most important food sources is acorns. It's a staple. They couldn't survive around here probably without them. And they're a nice option because they're easy to open. They're very densely packed with nutrients. And the oak tree releases them in the fall. So the timing's perfect for either eating them right there on the spot or burying them. So as many as possible so that they have them in the winter when other food sources have almost disappeared. And one of the things that the researchers have found out by recording squirrels with acorns and then slowing the recording way down is they actually shake the acorns before they eat them. And they're examining them to decide whether this is going to be an eat it or bury it acorn. And if the shell is cracked or has holes in it and they can hear insects in it, they don't throw it out. They eat it right away because they know it wouldn't survive underground if they buried it. So it's amazing that they're actually doing all of this in this short amount of time. It just seems like they pick them up and eat them, but they're actually examining them. And they can bury up to about 50 acorns an hour in the peak season for foraging and doing all of that. The two most common types of oaks in our area are the white oak and the red oak, and their acorns are shaped slightly differently, and apparently the white oak acorns taste much better. They've got less of the tannins in them, the bitter tannins. They both have some, but the white oaks have less. And so the squirrels will eat both, but they bury way more red oak acorns than white oaks. Those white oaks taste so good they eat them right away as much as possible, but they'll bury both. And luckily for the oaks, the squirrels forget about a lot of the acorns they hide, so they help the oak out by basically planting new trees. Although they have a 95% retrieval rate, so it's not like they're just mindlessly forgetting everything all over the place. They really do remember mostly where they put these things. But anyway, they do forget or not retrieve enough of them so that it helps the oak trees repopulate. And they bury the acorns farther away from the trees than if they had just fallen and germinated right on the spot. And that's better because if they're farther away, they don't have to compete with the parent tree for light and nutrients, and they're not always in the shadow cast by that parent tree. Yeah. Yes. So being farther away is a good thing, and being buried a little bit under the soil is a good thing. So oaks and squirrels have this nice, mutually beneficial relationship. But what I didn't realize is that if they were left unchecked, the squirrels could actually become a problem for the oak tree population as a whole. And the problem is that the squirrels eat a lot of acorns. And if you've ever watched one drain your bird feeder of all of its seed in like record time, you know how much and how fast they eat. They're like little eating machines, but they need to replenish their body weight every so often, and they eat and eat. And that doesn't help the trees. So at that rate that they eat them, at some point, it would probably outweigh the advantage that they provide the tree by accidentally planting some of the acorns. Well, the oak trees have been creatively getting around this problem of the squirrels eating so much more than they plant. And I didn't realize what I was noticing, but I've noticed that some years when I'm walking out in the fall woods, there seems to be way more, like really way more acorns on the ground than there normally is. And like the whole trail is just covered. And especially if they're bigger acorns, I mean, it actually makes it tricky to walk, right? I've almost fallen several times, but it's not every year, but some, and I always thought it was my imagination, but no. What I didn't know was that every 3 to 5 years or so, the oak trees have what's called a mast year, M-A-S-T. A lot of people know about this. I didn't. And in a mast year, they produce a huge overabundance of acorns, so many that if every squirrel in the area ate its fill, there would still be plenty of acorns left to become new trees. And the amazing thing is, it's not just a few individual trees doing this, because that wouldn't be very effective. All of the oak trees in an area communicate with each other using chemical signals that are transmitted through the crazy root fungus system underground that connects every tree together invisibly, which is also mind-boggling to think about. But the signal goes out when the weather conditions have been right for them to go into this year of overproduction. And I don't know how far the area would go. I didn't really look into that, but all of the oak trees in the area are doing it at the same time, which then makes it way more effective, but still amazing. With all of the oak trees in an area churning out this crazy amount of acorns, there's no way that the squirrels can eat enough to keep lots of acorns from still germinating. And the fact that it's an organized communication within the tree community, spurring them in a synchronized manner to overproduce these acorns is amazing to me. If they did it every year, it would use a lot of energy up, so that wouldn't work. So they just do it often enough to keep the population going when they can. And then lastly, people forage acorns too. I don't know if anyone here does, but you have to get rid of the bitter tannins by either soaking them in boiling water multiple times. Takes like days usually. Or in cold water several times. And by several times, again, that can take up to days to weeks, how many times you have to soak them. But you have to keep soaking them until the bitterness is gone. And it's not just because it tastes bad. Tannins mess with your digestive tract and can cause you really serious problems. So if anyone dares you to eat an acorn, don't. I don't think anybody here would, but if I was talking to a bunch of teenagers, you never know. Oh my God. Yeah. You might eat the acorn? Yeah. Well, don't. Okay. So it could take up to 15 cycles of this draining the water and adding the water and all of that. It's a lot of labor, but apparently the ground up acorn powder makes a good flour, which is also gluten-free. And a lot of people do this and use it. And it can be used as a caffeine-free coffee substitute as well. I definitely will never do this, but a lot of people do, and I think it's really cool that they do. And it's just another example of how trees sustain us, not just the animals, but sustain us also. I don't know.
Hi, I'm Laura. Our poem today is Eavesdropping by Jarod K. Anderson. Trees are the way we listen in on the conversation between cosmic energy and earthly matter. The sun posed a question. I didn't quite catch it. Something about hearing all motion as music. Something about galaxies stretching their joints after cramped quarters. Something about vastness as a love language. Not all questions are made of words. Some are tides of heat and light. Some change the listener before they can answer. The earth took its time. Of course it did. A question as kind as sunlight deserves an answer as generous as trees.
And now I have our wisdom from Suzanne Simard's book, The Mother Tree. And my name is Dolly. And that's what I should have said first, but here it comes. Discovering the Wisdom of the Forest is the subtitle of that book. The scientific evidence is impossible to ignore. The forest is wired for wisdom, sentience, and healing. I discovered that they are in a web of interdependence linked by a system of underground channels where trees perceive and connect and relate with an ancient intricacy and wisdom that can no longer be denied. I conducted hundreds of experiments with one discovery leading to the next, and through this quest I uncovered the lessons of tree-to-tree communication, of the relationships that create a forest society. The evidence was at first highly controversial, but the science is now known to be rigorous, peer-reviewed, and widely published. A crude map revealed, stunningly, that the biggest, oldest timbers are the sources of fungal connections to regenerating seedlings. Not only that, they connect to all neighbors, young and old, serving as the linchpins for a jungle of threads and synapses and nodes. The most shocking aspect of this pattern, that it has similarities with our own human brains. In it, the old and young are perceiving, communicating, and responding to one another by emitting chemical signals. Chemicals identical to our own neurotransmitters. Signals created by ions cascading along fungal membranes. The older trees are able to discern which seedlings are their own kin. The old trees nurtured the young ones and provide them food and water just as we do with our own children. It is enough to make one pause, take a deep breath, and contemplate the social nature of the forest and how this is critical for evolution. The fungal network appears to wire the trees for fitness. When mother trees, the majestic hubs at the center of forest communication, protection, and sentience, die, they pass their wisdom to their kin, generation after generation, sharing the knowledge of what helps and what harms, who is friend or foe, and how to adapt and survive in an ever-changing landscape. It's what all parents do. Join me in the response to the wisdom in the program. Trees show us how all life thrives in connection. May we play our role as interdependent creatures.
It's like when you walk into a room and you're like, I don't know what just happened here, but something's off. You know, like all of a sudden you feel like the tension of a fight that just ended, or I don't, you know, like it could be so many different things, right? Or really good, yeah. Or all of a sudden you're having a bad day and you enter some place and you're like, oh, wait, maybe not everything's not terrible. And it's just, yeah, that environment.
Somebody once said that a strong thought lingers like the smell of burnt toast.
Yes, a strong thought lingers. Absolutely. Trees. We've been talking trees all month. And I picked August because our trees are at peak tree, our deciduous trees anyway. But I think the evergreens are also at their peak now too, right? I don't know. Yeah, well, I guess they look evergreeniest in the winter, right? When everything else is white. But yeah, they do. I think everybody's at peak right now. Peak sun, peak energy. And we get 5 Sundays in August because we need as many as possible to talk about trees. There's just so much. We Oh, we'll have to have some apples for sure. Yeah. So we've talked about trees as our plant cesters, that they have
that plants were here on planet Earth before animals and humans. They have been here longer. And they are wise guides for us on how to be an earthling. They've been doing it for several millennia more than we have. And last week we talked about how they are great examples of being good neighbors, that they are just themselves fully and joyfully. And in doing that, they share their gifts with everyone around. Oxygen, shade, the fruits that they produce, the wood that they will eventually provide. So they are great neighbors, and we can learn how to be good neighbors to others, to other humans, and to other earthlings by following the example of trees. But perhaps their greatest lesson for us is this idea that life is not survival of the fittest, but in fact, it is survival of the most connected. The beings that are a part of their ecosystems and intertwined with the lives of all the other plants and animals in their area, they do the best. They survive through storms and droughts and floods, and it's this example that they have led us with on planet Earth of how to be these incredible connected beings. We, as humans, I think we used to know this, right? I think somewhere we still know it. That to live in relationship with the rest of the world is a better way. That we are connected with every other living thing on the planet is a real fact. And we used to live that way until life got hijacked by this idea that we are somehow separate in our humanness, that we're somehow above all the other plant and animal life, and that we aren't intimately and survivally connected to every other living thing. And how they do this, we've already sort of heard a little bit, but I want to read more from Suzanne Simard's book. Her research is this pioneering research that has happened in our lifetimes, that the whole scientific community is like, whoa, trees communicate? And all the native people are like, seriously? You didn't know this? Of course they do. We see it, right? They all put out huge amount of acorns together. They, there's in The Secret Life of Trees, this man who wrote it, I'm forgetting his name. He was a forestry, Peter Walburn. He's a German man and trained in forestry. And what suddenly changed his view of trees from a resource to a being was he found a stump that the other trees around were keeping alive. Like somebody had cut this stump down, but he pulled a little, sliver of the stump, and it was still moist. It was still living. It was getting pumped full of water and nutrients from its surrounding trees. And that for him was like, oh, okay, this is a different thing. Trees, yeah, and the other trees are caring for it. So how they do this, Suzanne Simard says, all trees and all plants, except for a very small handful of plant families, all trees and plants have obligate relationships with fungi, which means they need them in order to survive and grow and produce, to carry their genes to the next generations. And the fungi are dependent on the plants and trees because they don't have leaves for photosynthesis. So they enter into this symbiosis in that they live together in the root. So underground, where the root ends, a little mycelial fungi connects onto that
and they exchange. There's an exchange that happens there. They live together in the root and they exchange essential resources, carbohydrates from the plant for nutrients from the fungus. In this two-way exchange, which is very tight, it's very regulated, she says. It's almost like a market exchange. Like if you give me $5, I'll give you $5 back. It's very, very tightly regulated between the two partners in the symbiosis. But yes, all trees and all plants in all of our forests around the world are dependent on this relationship. And so these little fungi that actually look like the nerves that we have in our brains send these chemical synapses, just like our brains do, to function from, and because they can reach, they make the connection from one tree to the other. And so trees are able to communicate underground. Hannah.
So when the plants find new stuff, does their dirt get wrinkly like our brains?
Does the dirt get wrinkly? I don't know that. Maybe it is like the bark gets wrinkly, like our brain, you know, some of this bark does look like brain matter. I don't know where or how they store this information, but as we heard in the wisdom, the mother tree passes on her knowledge to her offspring before she dies. So we are all trees, all plant life are dependent on this symbiotic relationship and connected because of it. And isn't that true of all of us, though? This isn't just trees, right? All creatures that breathe are dependent on plants. Like last week, that Holy Green Tree song we sang says, what we breathe in, they breathe out. What we breathe out, they breathe in. We don't have nerves connecting us underground to the trees, but we have our air directly connecting. If we didn't have plant life, mammals and other birds, all reptiles, everything that breathes air wouldn't be able to exist. There would not be enough oxygen. We very literally could not survive without plants. We couldn't breathe without them. And they are like the base of the food chain, right? That's what every other thing eats at some point. They are the great energy processors. I loved that poem, how he talked about the sun is asking the question and the earth responds with trees. And they are the ones that process sunlight into all the stuff that feeds the rest of life. They take the sun and they take water and they metabolize it into sugars and fruits, and every other thing eats this stuff, plants. Trees show us how individuals are never separate from one another, but connected and responsible for caring for the whole. In Simard's studies, she found that when trees were faced with a choice of self-preservation or sending aid to the collective, they would always choose the collective. That gives me chills. They always choose the collective. They are literally showing us how to survive. That is like base level how we survive here on planet Earth. Prioritize the whole above the individual. All of this thinking about trees and their connections, I keep hearing Rumi's words come back to me. And I know I've shared them before, but they are so rich of wisdom. The Sufi poet, several hundred years ago, 1200, 1400 maybe, ancient wisdom for us. He says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. Even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense when we are spending time and savoring that connection, being aware of it, being present to the knowledge that right now, under our feet, the trees are whispering about us. They're sharing their oxygen and thankful for some extra CO2 from us. And in so many other ways, we are all connected. We are all walking on the same crust of the same planet, breathing the same air. Trees show us what's real. Not this idea that survival of the fittest, that we must, go off on our own, that we are individuals, that we're separate, that we as humans are a different level of species. Trees show us what is real, that we are all connected to each other. As the Spirit would have it, an very interesting article came across my, I don't know which feed, social media feed this week. It says, in a groundbreaking discovery, neuroscientists at Princeton have found that human brains emit and receive extremely low frequency electromagnetic waves, creating a global neural network connecting conscious minds. Yeah. So using highly sensitive magnometers, researchers detected coherent electromagnetic field patterns produced by individual brains that can influence others up to 6,000 miles away. Yeah. Like when a thought pops into your head, maybe it's coming from somebody else. This suggests our brains are not isolated organs, but part of a vast interconnected system. The study opens new frontiers in understanding consciousness and communication. Further research is needed, but this discovery challenges existing ideas about brain function and connectivity and collective consciousness. So not only have we discovered this connection with trees, but now we're realizing, maybe we could use science to tell us what we already know, right? That we are connected to one another in real ways. Yeah. And we carry our generations of family in our genes, right? So it's not just the present moment. We're connected to all of human history. We are all connected. Plant, animal, human, reptile, all of us. Here, sharing this planet, we are connected. We've known this. We've lived this way. And I think trees universally help us remember this, right? As soon as somebody walks out among the trees, there's this peace and calming. We talked about this the first Sunday, all the things we feel with trees. But there are other things that help us sort of open that part of our brain that understands how connected we all are, right? What are some other experiences you've had that have just maybe helped you see or feel this connection to every other living thing? I can share an example I saw recently. There's this really wonderful show called Resident Alien. Has anyone seen it? It's on Sci-Fi, so you can stream it on Paramount. I love it so much. It's basically a show about what it means to be human, because there's an alien that shows up in this small Colorado town, and he ends up, through a course of crazy events, holding a baby at a Native American powwow. And they're doing the jingle dance in this dingy old gymnasium. It's nothing spectacular, but these dancers have him mesmerized. And this is like season 4, so he's had a lot of human rub off on him, and he's realizing he's becoming more like humans. And all of a sudden, watching the jingle dancers at this powwow, it's like you hear his internal monologue like, oh my gosh, we are all connected. And it's so beautiful. Me and this baby and these dancers and the sky. And like he just starts listing all these things that he feels a sudden connection to after just having watched dancers dancing, moving to the music. And it's a very intentional movements, all of the Native dances. And so I was curious if you've ever had something that has triggered that kind of thinking for you. I was thinking, maybe like at a concert, everyone's singing the same words together, dance it, you feel this unity with the music and with each other. I saw there's this great Instagram I've found. It's like, I think it's called Wisdom Keepers, and they just interview like the oldest person they could find from all these different tribes of Native people from all over the world. And this one woman they interviewed, I can't remember what even area of the world she was from, but she was very old and wise. And she said, the earth has all the information we need for us, and we just have to listen. And she said, and sleep outside. Sleep outside. And she's like, your dreams will interpret the wisdom of the earth for you. And I was like, wait a second. Whenever I have slept outside, I've had some holy moments, right? I remember one time here in the ball field, we slept out, and I woke up and I felt like I had to hold on to the earth. Because I woke up and it was early dawn, there were still stars. And I thought, I'm just gonna fall right into outer space if I try to stand up. It just was it was that same thing of looking up and feeling so microscopic but connected to everything. And I had that connection to this woman's incredible wisdom, and I was like, yeah, maybe I need to be taking more naps outside or something. There's something to that. Because we're just talking about brain waves, right? Like your brain waves change during sleep. We enter a different space, and I think maybe in that space we're better able to receive. Whatever things help us remember our connection, help us to feel that. I think we need to go to them, to use those tools now more than ever. Because I really truly believe the message, the wisdom of the trees telling us our survival hinges on the very real connection that we have to everything else. And so I hope we can continue to experience that connection, be more aware of it moment to moment, so that we might live and move and breathe with that connection present in our brains, knowing that every move, every thought, every word, every breath affects the rest of our world around us, and that it has gifts for us to receive as well. So that, I believe, is a great lesson the trees have for us, and that we can work to tap into in the weeks ahead. It's a prayer from author and activist Adrienne Marie Brown. She shared this prayer in May, and it was deeply moving to me, and I knew I needed to save it for our tree month. So she is going to give us many beautiful images that I invite you to visualize and to continue to be aware of that connection that we have to the trees and to all life. So again, Adrienne Marie Brown, this is her prayer. I keep studying how the trees send their messages underground, send nourishment, send warning. How the trees pull up rivers from the ground and swallow sunlight into their rough skin straight from the air. The trees must show the babies in Palestine how to do this. I slip out to the red maple in my yard when I think no one will see me in case it works and becomes insurgent. I whisper into the leaves. Take this safe bask in sunlight to Palestine, and a great lake of fresh water to Palestine. Take the true rest of peacetime to Palestine. Take the nutrients from my soil to Palestine. Take the wheat. Take every seed that can grow to Palestine. Bone and gristle, let fat drip to each chin in Palestine. Green leaves stewed with sumac and oil in Palestine. Let this za'atar dusted bread fill each mouth in Palestine. Even here, where I have not been bombed one time, while my country was bombing yours. Even here, where they fight to call genocide war. Even here on this corrupt and colonized dirt, even here you are loved. The trees here whisper on behalf of the ghosts who want to feed you as I want to feed you. I imagine the mycelial thread praying its blind way through the dirt, coming to the edge of the ocean, burrowing down further into a place unimaginably hot and full of life. And somehow my heart vibrating drum roots across tectonic plates, coming up into that sea I only know from your pictures, coming up through and beyond all barricades, hands full of freedom and food. Take this fully formed fruit and vision to Palestine. Send great plants that can gift good life to Palestine. Let the flowers bloom into shelters in Palestine. Let the world see humanity there in Palestine. I whisper until I'm weeping, and I ask the trees to carry everything to you in Palestine. I weep with shame that I and we have not found a way to stop this massacre. I whisper down into the trees to show us a way to hold on to each other. Through the fire, through the logging, through the drought, through the rapists in highest office who make everything a violation, through the hate and cruelty, and then through this awakening, this too slow awakening to the truth. Through the aftermath of the awakening, when everyone will say they always knew better. I trust the trees more than any nation. I trust our ancestors more than any leader. Some of these trees are older than us. They have always known us. They hold our ancestors like water, like sun when I sing of Palestine to the tree in my yard. She touches my face. She takes away my tears to make for you a medicine of life. Amen.
Thanks for listening. If you want to support Church in the Wild and the work we do striving for environmental and social justice, you can head on over to our website, churchinthewild.org/support, or you can click on the donation page link. There you can make a donation, set yourself up to be a recurring supporter, or you can buy something from our Redbubble shop. We're so glad you're with us on this journey, following the Spirit through creation, adventure, and restoration. Until next time.